All right, I want to welcome everybody to the PDR Workshop live show, episode 52, where we're going to talk about when should you call it quits on a dent. That should be a fun topic, right, Dave?
Yes, I will.
I can't wait. Don't forget, guys, share your stories in the chat if you can. We will try to read off your stories in the show, and that's the we would love to hear everything that you guys say at different different situations that you may have came across where you had to give up, because we know everybody's going to have a unique style and their own reason for that to happen. So before we start, we always get into the tools. So Dave, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure.
All right, perfect.
So I tried to come with a more practical tool since you guys always have the new fun ones. This is a car seat organizer. I love this thing. This sits in the passenger seat of my vehicle, and I'm able to keep. Typically, I have notepads in here. I have pens. I have write-up markers. I keep my iPad in here. A lot of times, I'll have a thermos in here because I use my 2 cup holders for pretty much miscellaneous knockdowns, chapstick, other little things.
Other than the cup
So
holder.
other than the actual cup, yeah. So this thing, it's $25 on Amazon. It's the Think Clean Car front seat organizer by Think Clean Car. I absolutely love this thing. It's got a little zipper on the back too. If you wanted to put, checks or something like that in the back here, keep them hidden and maybe not in the open space. But it's got multiple pockets here. It's open at the bottom, so stuff will fall towards the bottom here, but then you can put it in these little nylon, and there's a zipper pouch here too if you wanted to put something in there. But I'll keep random things in here. I mean, I don't even know what I got in here. I got pens, I got markers. I think I got a knockdown in here. This thing does keep a lot of things organized off of the front seat or off of the floorboard. I'm able to put a lot of things paperwork-wise in here. So if you guys don't have this, is something nice. I have a Transit. It does have that overhead shelf as well.
Yeah.
So I will keep things up there. Sometimes it may be like a one of those locking clipboard style containers. But this primarily is always used in the passenger seat if I need to throw something in there real quick, if I don't want to forget it, if I need to grab something before I leave the truck. It'll go inside of this that's sitting just, this hangs around the headrest, and then it just sits in the front passenger seat there. So you can actually still put stuff on the seat if you needed to. And if someone does get in the car quickly, it's just a quick detach and it comes apart. Or what I'll do sometimes, and I'll just swing it around the headrest. It'll sit behind the seat and someone can sit in the front easily. So just a front seat organized. Yeah, but this is really nice too. It just keeps me very organized in the passenger seat here, especially when we have papers or invoices or POs that we need to keep track of. Sometimes if you don't have a folder for those things, this is really nice to kind of throw those in there and then file it away for later. So $25 on Amazon. This is what I use for my front seat here. It's a little car organizer.
Nice. Looks good.
Yeah, something nice and practical.
It took me about like 2 years to get one of those, and after searching around for pens,
that was my biggest thing.
Yeah, and I will say, I have one, but it's so flimsy it tears easy. So I think I'm gonna actually upgrade to the one that you have. You can tell that it's better quality. It actually keeps its shape. Mine kind of falls over as soon as it doesn't have any weight on it and stuff. So you said Amazon, right? $25.
$25, yeah.
Yeah. Can't beat that at all. So I'll go for the next one, and this is the Glexo. Hopefully y'all can see that. This is the Glexo cold glue adhesion, and what this is able to do, I'll show you kind of a used one. So you can reuse it. It pulls similar to hot glue. Probably like I think like a tab welt. The more I don't know I guess Glexo cold glue, the better the pull. And so it doesn't get sharp dents or sharp creases out. It can move that metal somewhat, but it won't get it out as clean as possibly a crease tab from Kiko. But this pulls like a lot of your large damage up. pretty much instantly, and then allows you to get to that last finishing stage, quicker. So Glexo, I think it's called Glexo Tools. I have their site up. Let me see. And so they make three different kits. So you have one with just two tabs, which is the smaller version. I guess this version, and a crease tab. It looks like for 175 plus the glue. They make the kit where it has the four tabs, and I believe these are billet aluminum. Billet aluminum. That's probably steel, actually. So they make a kit with four tabs with the glue. It's 290, and then they make a kit with just looks like just this tab with the glue for $90. So if you just want to try it out, $90 is definitely worth it for this tab. This is probably my go-to tab anyway. And just for you guys to see, they give you a stick probably about this long, and I've only used half of it for three tabs. So I just got one more tab left. That's clean. So go ahead and check it out. I actually got this idea from good friend Ryan, and that's it. You got
Sorry, I
anything,
was
Dave?
looking at so I was looking at One Big P. He said he worked on a dent today relating to today's topic, and I was just checking it out real quick, so I
Woo.
can get to
Okay.
him um, a little bit later in this show and respond to that and how he can repair that or have gone about that maybe a little bit differently.
Is that on text or is it over the show?
Yeah, I sent it through Instagrams here, so
Oh, okay, okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and I'll address it a little bit later. So yeah, tools are done. And just a little heads up, guys. So Ryan here has decided to forego the show. We understand it does take a lot of time and effort on our parts to put the show on. It does take a lot of extra time out of our working day that we already work countless hours with. And he's decided to take a bigger stance with RPS and really focus in and dive deep with RPS in Baltimore there. So kudos to him, props to him. We wish him all the best, and can't wait to see what he has coming in 2019 and 2020. So check him out on all of his Instagram and YouTube, and at RPS Dent Repair, RPS Dent Specialist. So you guys could check him out there. So that was just a little heads up for you guys. So if you guys are just wondering where Ryan's been or something like that, so it's gonna be me and Chris here. But let's get into the topic. So, reasons why you would give up on a repair. What is like the number one reason why you'd want to give up on a repair for you,
Give up.
or
It's
call
I
it
guess I was
quits?
I have a hard time negotiating with certain people. So I struggle with pushing past a repair that wasn't priced at least okay or fair, I would say. So when you do like $150 dent and it's 12, 14 inches, you're going to be there for 2 hours. I think that's kind of unfair for a PDR technician at, I don't sound cocky, but at my level. I shouldn't be on that repair, doing that because in 2, 3 hours, I can go through a lot of cars. I can get a lot of damage, moved and looking great. And I'm not getting paid for it at that time. So because maybe my negotiation is not great and I decide to, to do it for that price, or it's just maybe one of my guys missed the estimate a little bit, or I had to R&I like a door just to get to that one little small dent. It becomes a struggle to motivate myself. That just combat that is I kind of look at the end goal. So I look at, the benefits outside of the monetary that I'm gonna receive. So that's kind of what I do to push through that. But that's the most difficult time that I give up. Other than that, I would say damage that just doesn't move well. I almost gave up on that Dodge Ram that I did a video of, and you guys would have never seen a video if I'd have gave up. So 6 hours in, and I was almost calling it quits. Nothing was moving in that car, no matter how hard I tried. And I just kept at it. I think I was like 14, 15 hours on that repair. And I think it's just slowed down toward the end. But what about you, Dave?
I mean, a lot of times for me, I mean, I know I rarely call it quits on a dent. Uh, I will
Hmm.
do everything in my power to not call it quits. And it's and it's just one of those things that um as a technician, when you take pride in your work and you take pride in delivering a certain standard,
Right.
calling it quits just makes you feel the crappiest. I mean, it just does not make you feel good. It hurts your ego a little bit. It hurts that pride a
Yeah.
little bit when you have to
Yeah.
stop. But there are just some circumstances where you'd have to quit. Um, I do remember specifically one repair. I think it was last year. There was a couple in between there, but I remember one specifically last year. It was an Audi A8, if I recall.
Whew, all aluminum.
Pass- Passenger door, deep, probably 2 to 3 inch dent in the middle of the door, half in the brace, half out. Like you said, all aluminum. And I'm like, no, I can get this. Enough heat. And I mean, it was 2, 3, 4 hours. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not getting anywhere. This is not pushing how I thought it was going to push.
Yeah.
And, the customer after a couple hours, is everything okay? And I'm just like, yeah, everything's fine. I just have to do a couple things. And at this point, I have his door panel in the back seat, and, that's been taken off. And I told him, I think I told him maybe about an hour and a half or something like that. And, here I am 3, 4 hours in, and I'm like, man, I don't feel I'm going to be able to get this, and I couldn't. I had to call it quits,
Wow.
and that was due to just being overconfident,
Yeah.
and that could sometimes bite you in the butt too, because I was very overconfident in that repair. I'm like, yeah, this is no problem. It's just a 2 to 3 inch dent in the middle of a door. Yeah, I know it's an Audi and it's aluminum, but that doesn't mean anything. I'm going to fix it. It's no problem. I ate my words after that. I
Yeah.
mean, I
Yeah.
really
Humble.
did.
Humble. What they call
Yeah.
it? Humble pie, right?
Yeah, and um, I was just too confident
Yeah.
in my skill. That damage was too severe. It was too stretched. It was too deep to be actually pushed with PDR. It was not the proper um, PDR was not the proper process of repair for that
Hmm.
panel. It
Hmm.
realistically, it did need to go to a body shop.
Yeah. It seems like the deeper the dent, the more it gets. At least it gets me in trouble. It could be a 2, 3 inch dent, but if it's stretched and deep, we still want to tackle it because I think it's a learning experience for us. Hopefully if we can get it, but honestly, we're trying to create a miracle here by unstretching metal. I believe there's tools out there that can shrink the metal, and that goes to say that's another one not reason I guess I did turn down one repair because I didn't have that kit to actually shrink that metal, and I knew I was going to need it for that repair. Some of them I can work and manipulate the metal so that it it just kind of shrinks. I have tricks that I use to shrink that metal up, but it can't do it as well as a pro. Was it a PDR box or I forget what they call it, but so that tool allows you to shrink, and I actually had to turn down a repair because I did not at that time I did not have that tool. So that's one of the things that I had to pretty much give up on. And it was right there. If I just shrunk it, the whole dent would have been fine. Do you think that would have been the case there, Dave, with your aluminum Audi? Just
The way it was in the brace and out of the brace, and how deep it was, I don't feel that repair process still would have been beneficial.
would
The
have
the
been
hot
good.
box or the Pro PD,
Okay.
one of
Hot
those
box, yeah.
boxes, one of
Sorry.
them, one of those boxes, I don't think would have done the trick. I think that this damage was just too severe. It was like a gash almost in the
Okay,
metal, and
okay.
I thought it was going to be completely repairable, even being aluminum, and it just wasn't the case. And I, the reason why I was overconfident was because, I've fixed other Audi doors before with creases in them
Yeah,
that
no
were
problem.
super deep. It's no problem. It was the area which this was in, how deep this particular dent was. I was just too overconfident. I had to call it quits.
Mm,
Um, the most recent contemplation of quitting was just this last week. I had a dent on a roof, and it was actually a slab of ice had fallen from a roof or a high rise and had chopped from the
The
roof all
Honda
the way to the
Accord?
roof rail. Yeah, the Honda Accord. And I was very confident in most of that damage. A lot of it was super easy, very straightforward. The roof rail was pretty straightforward, but there was one particular part on the roof that when I started to tool it, all of that was happening was high spots. And all
Mm,
you were just getting was those little poke marks from the tool. And there was even after tape, and it would break through the whale tail, would break through the tape. Um, and I needed to probably spread that damage out a little more to allow that metal to flex. And I wasn't doing that. And I'm like, man, I just don't know if this is going to work. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get this damage out. I ended up being able to, and I pushed through it.
yeah.
Um, and that it was almost a reason for me to give up, but just due to me being persistent and always wanting to push through a repair, uh, I pushed through and everything was fine. I was able to kind of wet sand some of those imperfections out after the repair was finished. But you know, in the middle of that, those thoughts kind of start going through my head. I'm like, oh man, I don't know if I'm going to be able to actually
Yeah.
fix this, And I'm like, am I going to have to call it quits? I don't know, but I'm going to. And this is all happening as I'm twisting a tool, right? Like as I'm still pushing through it, I'm like,
Outside.
man, I'm like, but inside, I'm like, oh man, I don't know if I'm going to actually be able to repair this.
Mm.
It was just me pushing through it.
How did you feel, Dave, after you probably received payment and kind of on that drive home? I mean, what did that do to your morale? I guess the next day and I guess that evening, because I know that was your last dent. Just because you showed me a picture. It was like it's like 6 o'clock at night when you finished up.
Yeah, I
But
was in the middle of an alley in 35 degrees in the middle of Chicago. Uh, the only light source was my PDR light by the end of that repair. Uh, but I felt good. I felt really good that I was able to push through it. I was very confident in how it
Mm,
looked. I was very pleased with how it looked, how it came out. The customer was super happy with how it came out. And so driving home, I felt great.
yeah,
But driving home from
definitely.
that Audi that I was talking about previously, like I know that I was not feeling good. You just
Yeah,
don't feel
yeah,
like I don't feel like a competent tech. I didn't feel
mhm,
like a superior tech. I didn't feel like
yeah.
a good tech. I didn't feel um
And I'm pretty sure no matter what, you turn it down for the monetary, just not enough money, you just couldn't negotiate a good price or for anything. It does not feel well for a craftsman to turn down. I feel like to turn down work. Even if the deal is just so far off, I feel like it was something I could have done to maybe possibly lower the price or done less work. But we just couldn't have come to an agreement at all. That just goes through my mind throughout the day. It kind of messes me up. At least when I give, and I don't give up too often. So normally my negotiation now I'm getting a lot better. So I'm probably going back off of a couple of years ago. But have you ever, I guess, had an issue with cracked paint? Because I have a story of an Aston Martin with cracked paint. But have you ever given up or just kind of halted the entire repair because due to, I mean, you cracking the paint?
yeah, depending on the situation, some places I've been at um wholesale lots and oh, it's fine, it's fine. I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah,
I've been at
didn't.
body shops and I'm like, hey, the paint's cracked. Oh, it's fine. We'll touch it up. Or oh, no, we'll take care of it. I'm like, okay, cool.
Hmm. Hmm.
What it's just when it's that retail customer, then that
Yeah,
crack paint, I'm stopping.
yeah,
And yeah, I feel like I failed
yeah, yeah,
when that paint cracks.
yeah, yeah. I mean, a lot of times I think in our skill level, it's not probably because of us. I mean, we are going in most of these doors blind. We don't know if it's Bondo, what kind of metal, what kind of prep work was used. Um, I'm pretty sure you guys can see the little videos on YouTube of a guy doing an air blow hose and just paint is just flaking completely off a car. So those are type of you know things that we have to deal with. And people will tell you that it's never been painted before and it cracks. Uh, so, but it does happen. I find myself having to tell the customer I prep before, probably the last 4 to 5 years. I can determine whether that paint is going to hold up or not. Very rarely would something like happen. Maybe once every 2 years, I may slip and just something's going on that I it was unforeseen. But we check the paint meter and see if there's any work on that panel before we start. We let the customer know that whatever hit your car did in fact just damage the paint. There is some tricks you can use to kind of preserve that paint while you're pushing and then remove the glue that you use. So that's one thing that you can do. Um, have you ever turned down Dave for the length of the repair? It's just some side swipe for two doors, a deer hit it and just went on top of the car and just did all kinds of damage. Have you ever turned it down because it's just flat out just a lot of work?
No, I'll push
No.
through that. I mean, I
Okay.
have stopped if it was a lengthy repair and there were some weather conditions. If it started raining really bad and there was no inside
Yeah.
space, stuff like that, I've stopped. But I still wouldn't call it quits on the repair. We just have
Yeah.
to reschedule for us to come back out. So that wouldn't be, yeah, the length of the repair wouldn't be an issue on why I
Nice.
would call it quits. It's going to be some of these other things that we just talked about.
Right. Yeah. Nice. What I'm pretty sure you've been reading through the stories. Do you care to share?
Yeah, Crow Soccer earlier said he would contemplate giving up on a dent if it's super stretched, kind of like you were talking about in the beginning.
Yeah. Mhm.
When it starts acting like a trampoline, it gets super annoying and aggravating. And when he says that, I'm thinking oil can. So,
Mhm.
uh, there's times where dents have oil can, and I haven't given up, but I'm relaying the situation to the customer, whoever it may be.
Right.
This is the situation we're dealing with. This is either in or out. Now that's where I think one of these PDR box or PDR hot boxes would work when that oil
Yeah.
canning's happening. I personally don't have one, so I'm still sticking with it's either going to be high or low. A lot of times when that oil
Mhm.
can is happening.
H-
Um,
How do you explain that to the customer? Just what do you normally tell? I have my spiel that I'll share mine, but what do you normally say to the customer when it's oil cannon or when you start to realize it's oil
I
cannon?
try to relate it to a can of Coca-Cola.
Okay.
And so I try to get them to picture that. And I said, when you're kind of messing with a can of Coke and you really start really messing with it, and then you can't get those little dents that you put in it back to, the way they were, that's what's happening with this. And they can
Mhm.
kind of envision or kind of know what you're talking about. It's a very hard thing to relay to your customer when they
Mhm.
don't know what that term means. And I'm sure
Yeah.
a bunch of you guys here in the chat probably have a bunch of what we say spiels, but what you would say to your customer when something is oil canned. That's what I say. That's how I try to get them to envision what is happening to this. You had something that was very severe. It was really dented. So, like your Coke can was really dented. And we tried to bring that back to its round cylinder like shape. And it's just not happening because of that damage being too severe. It's too far
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah, I always use the example of a trash bag. They're all around. I mean, in my shop, and I said, think of it like a trash bag, and you should go to pierce your finger through the bag, and you kind of see it protruding out. Then when you let your finger out of the trash bag, you'll see it. You'll still see the imprint of your finger. That's kind of like how your dent is. It's either in or it's out, and they
That's
normally get
interesting.
it from that. Because I mean, every kid is trying to put their hand through a trash bag, so it seems like they understand that, and they go, oh, "Okay." And I said, I try to leave it as flat as I possibly can, but I don't really have that issue. The PDR box normally can correct that, so this is more like prior. There's stuff out there like that PDR box that will take that oil can completely out, but with an expense of removing the undercoating of the panel of the actual door or whatever you're working on. So just be mindful of that. You do have to get behind that actual dent. And a lot of times, the oil can and dents are in those open areas anyway. So you will need to remove a lot of stuff when you use that hot box, just for reference, guys.
And Metal Pusher says throwing in the towel once in a while is part of business. Anyone who takes risks should expect to call it quits maybe a couple times a year.
I
And I
like that. I like
completely
that.
agree with that. Because there are a couple times a year where, we have to call it quits. Um,
I'm
it's not very often, but, I would say
right.
throughout the year, at least for myself, um, I'm going to go with like 3 to 5 are probably
Yeah.
somewhere in that range. It's
I'm gonna go
not
one to
many,
three. Yeah, 1 to 3.
but because and that's calling it quits means we've negotiated it. It's in our
Mm-hmm.
possession. We're working on it. We've sold it. We're trying to attempt this repair here. So all those things are happening. This isn't like
Mm-hmm.
someone. This is like, hey, someone just came to you and said, hey, let me just try this for free, or you went to your wholesale lot and said, hey, let me just try that dent. uh,
Mm-hmm.
I'll take care of it for you, and just to see if you can do it. Now, these are actual setup appointments from customers that we've had, and
Mm-hmm.
we're trying everything in our power to close this sale, finish this repair, and close that sale. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you have to call it quits. So I think a couple times a year, throwing in that towel, like you said, is part of business. We should expect that. It's just it hurts our pride when we have to.
Oh, tremendously, tremendously.
But
What are some? Go ahead. I'm sorry, Dave.
well, I was gonna say George Gomez here was talking about our previous topic, pulling paint or cracking. Do you still charge, or do you just not charge, even though the repair is 90% done? So
I
for
don't
me, I
charge.
don't I don't charge
Yeah,
either. If the paint was not cracked before we got in there and we did crack
yeah.
it, we're
See,
not we're not charging.
see, I make an ethical decision on this. If there was something that may have caused the paint to crack, whether that we didn't see, that maybe the customer could have let us know, hey, you got an accident, the door panel was painted, all that stuff. Then to me, I'm like, I don't still don't charge, but it's not really our fault. We can't, we don't have X-ray vision on this. We can only go by feel. But if I'm in that particular repair and it's like a Subaru where I know the paint is fatigue, it's a bad dent, and I'm saying I can get it, or even just an okay dent that may need heat. And if I crack the paint, which keep in mind it doesn't happen too much, then I'm not only not charging the customer, but I'm also fixing that door the conventional way, so they pretty much get their dent fixed for free. That's kind of this. So I am constantly making this. If that happens, I'm making the decision was who's at fault, and I make the ethical choice. Who was really at fault, and so that's how I choose. Dave, I'm pretty sure. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we don't charge if something like that's happened. If there's an imperfection after we have come in and performed our process, and we messed up something in that process, you're not getting charged for that.
Okay.
So even the repair is 90% done. We got it almost all the way there. And that one last push that we didn't have the test tape on the tool, and it went ahead and split that body line paint. It's we did that. That was
Yeah.
us. So
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna be not reliable. We're gonna be liable for that. So,
Right.
um, but kind of switching up, one thing that I have seen with other technicians that either I've trained with or other techs have trained. Um, with giving up on a repair or calling it quits, just not being disciplined enough to push through that
Mm.
rough part of
Mm-hmm.
the dent or that
Mm-hmm.
repair to see that other side. Not being disciplined enough to push through when there's so many highs and lows, and there's all these weird things going on within your repair, and your lights kind of reflecting all over the place, and you can't really see the end goal, and you're like, man, I don't know what this is going to look like or how I'm going to get it. I know what it should look like, but I just don't know how I'm going to get it there. um Technicians not being disciplined enough to push through that part.
And why is that? I always see in my household, I don't have a microwave. It's the dumbest thing ever, but literally trying to figure out how to live with it, and it's been 2 years strong now with no microwave. And I always say that it's a microwave world. People are they just want quick results. So, not even thinking about this topic, it just led me to think about this the non microwave I have in the house, and how I always say it's a microwave world. So, you got to provide your customers with quick access to your website, quotes, and stuff like that. And that's how I kind of use it. But on this, do you think the newer technicians just are just in for the results? Because I do get a lot of questions, and they're like, "Why is this not moving?" And I say, "Hey, how long have you been pushing?" And they say 2 weeks. I say, "You still haven't trained your
They
eyes to
want
even
the
see it." Yeah, they want the end
they want
goal
that
like now. It
they want
doesn't
that
work like
out
that.
yeah, they want that outcome before the actual skill.
Yeah,
Um,
and
yeah, and
so,
and and a lot of people I think fail or call it quits because they don't want the knowledge or the mastery of that skill, or
hmm,
those two things aren't the driving force of of a repair. I mean, at least in
hmm,
our line of work of a repair, knowledge and mastery of PDR isn't their driving force,
yeah, okay,
and
makes sense.
it's probably a monetary outcome they're looking for rather than an actual repair
Hmm.
outcome that they're
The
looking for. Why isn't
craftsman
this
outcome is
metal
better product.
moving
Yeah.
this certain way?
Hmm.
It's like, why can't I repair this?
Hmm. Hmm.
Well, one, it's been 2 weeks. Like in your case, it's been 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You know, I could understand after 2 years and something like that was happening, and we can maybe work with you a little bit more. But um,
Yeah. It's tough. It's tough. But
yeah,
but that goes back to the fact that this is a craftsman type skill. This is almost like someone building, like a woodworker building a table. You know, every table that comes out of that guy that hand builds tables is going to be better than the next one. And so he's going to always, a real craftsman is going to always want to improve on his craft. And I think you see a lot of these dent guys just are just standing out from the rest, and you start to, I mean, um, Bryce Kelly said it correctly. He said perseverance all through it. I mean, these guys have to have a level of perseverance to get through some of those repairs that especially Bryce and what he does. Um, that's just amazing. I mean, me personally, I get bored after 2 days on a car. That's just me. I know my limit, so I got to step away. The car will be there for 4 days, but I'll be pushing for three. So I just need to step away. But yeah, that's what I see. I see, uh, you know, perseverance is what sets you apart. What will probably allow you not to give up as much. Even as a new tech, I had a wholesaler, and he wanted 100%, if not 195% on everything that he did, that anything that we touched. And that's what got me to how fast I am right now. It's getting those dents up quick so I can get home to my wife, because it was at night. And so to sit there, work on some of the nastiest dents, creases from the fender, front door, rear door, and I really only have 6 hours to make this thing look at least 3 feet, 5 feet away, look perfect. So
and
the person.
when that's said and done, um, I would assume you're not looking at yourself as a failure. You're looking at all of that as a lesson,
Oh yeah,
and
and
you're
so
learning from that entire time you're persevering.
And so even with business, I always say, it's funny because Andy has this on his Instagram. He says, you're always constantly learning. The day you stop learning, that's the day you die, right? That's what they all say. So in business, in PDR, in the craft of PDR, the skill, you always have to be a sponge. You could never think that you know more than the next guy because he's been working for 4 or 5 years less than you. You just have to absorb all this information. And I think at the level that me and you, Dave, it's all the little micro stuff that we pick up on each other. It's not some big giant, new evolution of dent repair that we're gonna try to learn, but it's the little small little tweaks that we can do to be better, faster, and just quicker with these repairs. So I don't know. I think people need to be worried about. They need to have that constant learning mind frame. To be honest. And then where's the goal then? Because there is no end.
Yeah.
You're
Mhm.
always at the state of learning. So
And
you're
so if
kind of
you can,
content, not content, but you're just okay not knowing that there's a goal there. Does
yeah,
that make sense?
yeah. And then when you call it quits on a repair, it's not a failure. You're learning from
It's
that.
you're
So,
learning.
like
You're
when I
absolutely
quit
learning.
on
Yeah,
that Audi, I now know every time I have a deep
exactly.
shot on an Audi A8, I'm going to
Hmm.
rethink my entire process of estimation. And I'm either going to have to see it in person, I'm going to have to see multiple photos. I just don't want to estimate off of one. Most likely, probably see it in person. But just in that specific situation, what I tend to do probably that week or two after is estimate my repairs a lot, or take a look at my estimates a lot more closely. So, like,
Hmm.
because I failed on the one, I'm like, I'm not going to fail again this week or these next 2 weeks. And usually it goes back on that upswing and everything's fine. But I know that when something like that happens, when I do have to call it quits on a repair, I am now taking into consideration every time either that vehicle shows up or that same sort of damage shows up in our emails or our requests. So we are constantly learning from these uh, situations that we've had to call it quits. I now know when I
Hmm.
have a deep shot on a Honda Accord roof that certain spot that I tried to get to is going to be very tough to push. So now next
Right.
time I go to estimate that car in that same area, or there's the same type of damage on that same vehicle that I have to estimate again, I'm now going to know from the previous time how to correctly either price it for my time that I know I'm going to have to
Hmm.
spend,
Explain it. Hmm.
or be able to explain it correctly to the customer, or now I know what tools I'm going to have to use. There's so many things that I'm learning
Hmm.
from a time that I've had to call it quits.
Nice. I just read what Push and Polish said. Yeah, he said he calls a mentor when he encounters something new, and he just pretty much asks, "Is there anything I need to know about this dent or this car or this area on the vehicle?" And that says something. He is willing to learn. Not only that, he's taken pride and ego out of it and willing to ask for help. And I do feel like a lot of guys, do not use that resource to ask someone, "Hey, is there anything I need to know about this? Hey, I saw in your last post that you did the same door. Could you tell me anything about it? Did you have any problems? How's the access and stuff like that?" And I think over the years it's getting a lot better. I mean, there's a lot of forums. We try to jump in our personal Facebook group. I said forums. You see how old I am, right? They don't even use forums anymore. But the Facebook group. So kudos to Push and Polish for at least listening and taking pride out of it and asking questions so that your mentor could or someone could actually help you. Richard also said, I believe he's talking about the fact of turning down work. Is it the same feeling, to break a laminate glass window? I think so. I feel like a failure
Yes,
when I break a window, man. I feel so
100%.
bad,
It's the
man.
same feeling.
I feel
It's
so
the same
bad.
feeling. It's the same feeling only because it's the same feeling of like failure, right? Just
Yeah,
because when you
yeah.
call it quits, you feel like you're failing. When you break laminate glass, it's like, wow, I just failed as a tech. To like, because now that's the only thing on your mind is like this glass. It's not the repair
Yeah, that's
itself. You're
it.
now wondering, how am I going to fix this? What's going to happen? What do I tell my customer? How am I going to get this replaced? How much is it going to cost? There's all the things that are now running through your head rather than, man, this,
Yeah.
this dent's being a pain in the butt. So
I think the hardest thing, at least for me, is literally explaining to the customer that a professional that they, gave their car to remove a dent, other problem with the window. It's just,
correct.
it's just, it sends chills down. I mean, I've done it a couple of times, especially with having employees. I've had to do it a few more times than I wanted to, but still, man, that is the worst time. Coordinating everything, that's easy for me. I can get a glass in a day. I'll have someone come put it in, all that good stuff. But man, actually explaining to the customer and seeing the look on their face and just waiting for that response, like that initial response of, "Man, that's messed up," or how I'm gonna get home. Like you could kind of sense how bad of this this is going to be. This situation is going to be from that first response. That's always the most dreadful thing in that. It's like your stomach turns, you know.
So I kind of want to go
That's a good
over.
one.
I kind of want to go over something that David from our chat here, One Big P, um, he
Hmm.
sent us, I think, both an Instagram message, and it was pertaining to our topic today. He said something for tonight's topic. It's a 2007 Mercedes-Benz CL63 rail that he had to glue pull. The
Hmm.
customer wanted it improved, but did not want to paint it. I said 85%, but I think it came out better. I couldn't get the line to pull out fully. It was deep. I could have spent hours on this. Here's what I did in an hour. So I'm gonna go ahead and screen share with you guys what he showed
Nice.
us. And so he has a deep dent on the left hand side here on the roof rail of a 2007 Mercedes Benz CL63 rail.
Yeah.
Here's and it's a fairly deep shot
Yeah,
to the
that's
rail
good deep.
here. And on the right hand side here, you can still kind of see the deep crease right in the middle that didn't want to pull.
Hmm.
And he said that this is what he could get done in an hour. What do you think? He goes, any advice or thoughts on how to maybe go about this and maybe have gotten 100% repair?
I would create that crease and just make it like just open that dent up, and then so that way you can actually pull that crease. That may take longer than an hour. I don't
Correct.
know. Um, yeah, I don't know. So if you only had an hour, I don't even know if that would have made sense. Just depending on the environment, it looks like the guy's wearing a t-shirt, so it doesn't look like it was too cold outside. So maybe green or glue should have been pulling, I guess. Looks like you have a mini lifter. I would definitely open that den up and did some nice slow pulls. Keep opening the den up, opening the den up. It would have been probably like a half dollar size dent um, towards like the last pull. Kind of a shallow dent, not as deep, but towards the last pull, it would have been a big open dent.
Yeah. So the first thing I'm doing with something like this is I'm taking a R4 tip from Dentcraft with the cherry tip on
Hmm.
top. And I'm trying to get that tip as close to that center line or that crease as possible and opening that up from the inside out.
Hmm.
So I'm trying to beat down the sides of that crease uh, and make all of the area around it just as low or even lower than what it is now. And I'm
Hmm.
going to try to soften up or make this whole area a lot wider, a lot softer. So when I go to put a tab on it, it's going to pull that center. A lot of times when you put a tab on something like this, it'll just pull the area around it. That glue and that tab isn't really getting down into
Hmm.
the deepest part of this crease. So what you have to do is kind of beat down the edges or beat down the sides around it to allow that glue to set into that the deepest part of this with
Hmm.
that tab. And I'm like
Hmm.
you said, I would probably be about a half dollar, maybe a little bit larger, um, around in diameter. And that's all going to be low. And then I'm going to start doing pulls
Yeah,
and
and
try to
it's
get that center out first.
and sometimes you have to lift it up so you can see where to knock down. Because I'm knocking down right on that line, like right, anything that's high around that line, basically. So sometimes, like the second picture to the right, that's kind of perfect where I would knock down, and I would start opening it up from there, and then pull again, one big pull, opening it up,
Okay.
pull. And so to me, I wouldn't start knocking it. It all depends on the dent, though. I mean, this is just the one angle that I'm seeing.
Right.
But I would probably do one pull, see what it moves, and then knock down first. I I think that the metal, when you're just moving it up and down like this, I think it gets fatigued because over time it just gets more malleable. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it seems to work well when you just take time to to do that type of repair because if I remember correctly, that is a hard metal that they use on that rail of that car. So just to kind of fatigue it, that up and down motion, it just starts to loosen up molecules. I know I'm speaking crazy here, but hopefully some of you guys understand what I'm saying. But it starts to allow that metal to just loosen up for you, and then you can actually start moving more metal each pull. So yeah,
Yeah, and he said, he said the
that's my
customer wanted
story.
it improved and didn't want to paint it. Um, he said 85%, but I think it came out better, and I think so as well.
No, I
And
think
like
it
Chris
was.
said, this is only one angle, so we don't know what it looked like in person. But judging just by these photos, that kind of looks like more of a scratch than it does a dent. Um, but I could probably guess what that looks like in person. When you
Mhm.
touch it or feel it, it's going to have that little imperfection. You're going to feel it. Um, so I don't know. I think you did really, really well. My thoughts would
Nice.
have been to open it up from the beginning. Chris said he would have opened it up at your 85% here that you said. He would have started opening it up from there to get that center out.
Well,
So
well,
these are
yeah.
these are
Mhm.
just two different processes that we have, and these are two different
But
ways that we would attack it.
But I will say I would not spend an hour opening it up to 85%. Not saying that you didn't need to, just saying if I whatever it takes to open up that dent fast, but I want to see first. So I'm a pull just so I can get a better sight of my light and then knock down. So the whole goal is to knock down as fast as you possibly can. So if it took me an hour to get to that 85%, it would have already been you know, opened up way before that. Probably about the first 5-10 minutes. So
Yeah,
that is
and I.
that's my method.
Yeah, now just going back, looking at what other guys, here had said, push and polish VIP on the sharp edges of the crease, open it and release the pressure.
Hmm.
Um, Jai says that he would open it up from the beginning first, so the glue can touch the inside of that dent. Um, yeah, I mean, and push and
Hmm.
polish says a lot of people go straight for the glue on a dent. It seems strange, but starting with a knockdown is sometimes the best way to start.
Yeah,
And I've actually found that to be, very true.
yeah.
There's times where you need to knock down a crown before anything will actually release, or you're
Hmm.
trying to pull something that's too locked up because there are crowns. And going with the knockdown first is what's going to actually have to happen to allow you to actually move some metal.
Yeah. Peter saying that he has a dime size steel blending hammer for very it says very heavy for that fine tapping. Man, and Peter is a very knowledgeable technician, so he is sharing some knowledge right here for
Mhm.
sure. Quick question before this gets to where is it at? It says, Chris and Dave, when you were starting your career, did you give up more often? This is from Ding King. Ding King. Sorry.
When you were starting your career, did you give up more often? No, I
Yeah,
think
that's for
that's when
me.
I probably pushed more often. I,
You didn't.
I'll
So you
probably
didn't. You didn't give up. Not give up. I guess that's not the best way. Yeah, I would say no. I didn't give up.
No, I was pushing way harder. I'm like, no, I'm gonna get
Yeah,
this. I'm gonna get this. I'm gonna get this.
yeah.
I
Now, did
think
you
at
always get it though? Because that's. I
no,
guess maybe.
no,
Yeah. No. Yeah.
no. But then that's where we were just talking about learning from those failures,
Hmm.
or they're not failures, but learning from those repairs that we just didn't get
Hmm.
quite right. Like, man, what could I have done different? Maybe I should have used tape. Maybe I should have used rubber first. Maybe I should have knocked down first. I had this nice, soft, shallow, probably watermelon sized dent on a RAV4 quarter panel. I'm like, oh, two glue pulls, one at the bottom, one at the top, pop, pop, everything will be fine. Yeah, no. 2 hours later, I'm still on this thing. Why? Because I should have knocked down the crowns first
uh,
and then went in with the glue.
yeah, but you learn your lesson.
I definitely learned my lesson.
And
Uh,
I think what you're trying to say too is like as you're new to this career, you can't afford to give up on every dent. For one, because you're sacrificing obviously money, and you're also sacrificing time on metal, which to me is more important than money at those earlier years. And so no matter what you can do, try to get everything 100%. And I think 5 years, your career will excel, more than someone's that's just, complacent and just getting it good enough for 5 years. It's funny. You ever work with a whole? I've worked with a wholesaler. I'm sorry, a kind of a lot guy. All he does is lot. So it's whatever the guy, his standard is the manager. And so when I worked there and I'm like, yo, that's still there. And he's been doing it for 10 years. And so I'm thinking, oh, he knows how to, it's 10 years. I don't have to watch him. Then I look back in the car. I'm like, yo, that's the dents are still there. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. He doesn't understand to move his light. He doesn't have to move his light. He only needs to work it from one way. And it looks good from the manager's, office for sure. Right. And so, but if you want to, again, be a craftsman a skill craftsman at what we do, I think you just really need to invest in the time and just don't give up. And it's okay if you can't get it there, but just give it 110%. I think you'll benefit, as years to come. Also, I will say something about that glue pulling. Try out the Dead Center Kiko tabs. I've been playing around with them. I think maybe Push and Polish does have them, but anyway, I've been playing
Yeah,
around with them.
he's saying we need to get, or
Yeah,
I need to get those. You were telling me too,
yeah,
like you need to get these.
yeah. Those things are absolutely amazing. They are not the most durable tabs. They break quite easy, but they will save you hours. I don't know what they got going on, but the Dead Center is a great name for that tab. So I recommend anybody going to purchase at least the set. So yeah, Push and Polish. Yeah, that's a go-to tab, man. They nailed it with that tab. Um, Anything else, Dave? We need to go over. We want to leave on a positive note. So, Dave, let's go over the tips for a new tech or for anybody that's struggling or just wanting to give up. What is your some mental things you can say to yourself or um, anything like that? Unless you have something that you want to say before we go into the tips.
No, I think we gave out a lot of our tips,
Mm-hmm.
throughout this whole show here.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a quote that I did want to say, and we've all actually kind of touched on this either in our chat here, me and you. But never mistakes, always lessons, forever masters. Um, you
Ooh.
know, and that just like I said, that's always learning from our repairs. What could we have done different? What tools could we have done? Would there have been a better tool? Is there another tool out there that maybe this would have worked, uh, uh, got me there faster? I know a lot of guys right now are on the Stanliner kick because they say they're great. Um, there's a whole mastery to those. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like I need to get the Stanliner tool because they're gonna. That's it. That's what's gonna make me be the best tech. And it's not the tools. In
Mm-hmm.
this game, it is not the tools. It is the way you use them. And so I'm always trying to think of how could I use my tools differently? What else would have worked better? How could I have done that repair different? What should I have done? What could I have done better? Should I have used heat? Should I have taped it up? Should I use glue first? Maybe I shouldn't have used glue first. I should have just went in with the tool. These are all things that I'm constantly thinking about during my repair and typically right after my repair. Once I pack up, I leave and I'm on to the next one. I'm always thinking about that last one and how could I have
Mm-hmm.
improved on that certain particular damage, whether it was a door, a quarter panel, a body line, a gas door, whatever it may be. I'm always trying to think of the next time I have that same sort of damage, what could I do now to
Mm-hmm.
make this cleaner and faster?
Mm-hmm. So always strive for improvement.
Always.
Yeah, always. Well, before we go, guys, we got a couple of things we got to go over. Please don't forget to hit the thumbs up button. We really appreciate you and leave any comments or anything of any future shows that you want us topics you want to talk about. We have a new podcast coming out. It's not a new podcast, it's the same podcast, PDR Workshop podcast. We have a new series on that same podcast. The next release will be tomorrow. Dave is working hard trying to get the new series up. I think we already have 4 or 5 already recorded. This is going to be something that is not scheduled. We're just going to have fun. We're just going to do what we can. It's called PDR Workshop Unscripted. Dave, do you want to talk about it a little bit? You had a nice little spill.
So yeah, what we're gonna be doing with PDR unscripted, we're just gonna be. It's either gonna be me and Chris talking about a topic, that we just on the spot came up with. It's going to be us interviewing people from our body shops, detailers that we know, other people in our industry or in the auto recon industry that we know, or that we can just connect with if we can. And try to get them to say a little something about what they do. How do they bring value to their customers? How do they bring value to their industry? And that's just kind of, it's going to be these kind of just one-off, anywhere between 5 to 25, 30 minutes of just quick unscripted topics. So here
Mm-hmm.
obviously we have live Q&A with you guys. There's a set topic that we do talk about. These are just going to be things that we talk about just in our daily phone conversations that we wish we could elaborate on or have another, live show, but it's not till next Monday. So these are going to be a lot of things that we think of off the cuff, and be able to talk about them right away. Get them, give some info to you guys. It kind of also helps us walk through a lot of the topics that we struggle on just as business owners, as technicians. So
Mm-hmm.
stay tuned for that. We're trying to get a lot of these up and running, starting tomorrow. So uh, we're not, like you said, we're not going to have a set schedule. They're going to be about, and like I said, anywhere between 5 to 30 minutes, just different content that's not uh, our live show content.
Yeah, that's nowhere you can find this content. So we're always constantly trying to add value to the industry and add value to everyone around us. We are still learning from you guys in the chat. Push and polish. I think you were right there when I bought those dead center tabs and pretty much sealed the deal for Kiko for me. So we're gaining knowledge just as much as you're gaining knowledge from these conversations online. And so greatly appreciate all the feedback and the support that you guys have been showing to the channel, to Dave, to me directly. I wish everybody a wonderful, wonderful week. And we'll see you on the next live show, guys.
See you guys.
Peace out. Peace.